Happy Friday, everybody. Another big name enters Maine's governor's race. Former Speaker Mark Eves is live in studio answering your questions.
Plus, 2 ambulance crashes in 1 week. In both cases, the driver admits he fell asleep at the wheel. We're looking at schedules and how that plays into this.
And parking in Maine in the summer, always tough. But do you know how much time you spend in a year trying to find a spot?
This is News Center now.
You never know what the night is going to bring. It could be quiet and it could be very busy, so you're up all night.
2 ambulance crashes in 3 days, and officials say driver fatigue was the reason for both. Our emergency responders expected to work dangerously long shifts. We take a look at that.
And he's officially running for governor. Former House Speaker Mark Eves is answering your questions about his campaign and the issues Mainers are facing. So post your questions now on our Facebook live stream. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Costa in for Lee Goldberg.
And I'm Amanda Hill. We start tonight in Bowdoinham. That's where state police say the driver of an ambulance fell asleep and crashed. The second such crash this week happened in the northbound lane of I-295 around 5 o'clock this morning. A state trooper says the EMS crew had just taken a woman in labor to the hospital and were returning when the driver says he dozed off. A witness tells police the ambulance crossed multiple lanes of traffic before hitting the median, going airborne and crashing into the guardrail. A nurse riding in the back had minor injuries while the driver and his passenger were unharmed. Trooper Dunn says no charges are pending in this case.
Just 2 days ago, around 4 in the morning, a Fort Kent ambulance hit a utility pole and rolled over in Masardis. Police say the driver fell asleep going into a curve in the road. Again, there were no patients in the ambulance at the time of the crash. The driver and an attendant suffered non-life-threatening injuries.
Between the 2 incidents that have happened in the last 24, 36 hours, it should be a warning shot across the bow for all of us here in Maine to really look at our policies and look how we're scheduling and make sure that when someone is working an extended shift, they have a period of downtime.
Okay, so when we posted the picture of the first crash, we did get some posts asking about paramedics' long shifts. Melissa says this is exactly why it's so dangerous to push these medical responders to pull 36 to 48-hour shifts. Glad everyone is okay.
Don says these people working these jobs are getting no sleep. It's a proven fact that staying up 24 hours is the equivalent to being extremely drunk. The shifts should be no longer than 16 hours.
Now, we know the driver in this morning's crash was finishing a 24-hour shift because he had picked up overtime. That's not actually a normal shift for Delta crews, but it is normal for a lot of departments in Maine, giving their employees a few days off in between to rest.
Departments that do have 24-hour shifts have beds for their crews to sleep in when they have downtime during the day or night. South Portland is one of Maine's cities to implement the 24-hour shift. A spokesperson for the department cites a number of studies from Canada to New Jersey to some a little closer to home that report a decrease in sleep deprivation on full shifts like that as opposed to split shifts like 10-hour days and 14-hour nights. A 2013 Toronto study found the majority of personnel surveyed reported being less tired at work on the 24-hour shift compared to the 10-14-hour shift, feeling more satisfied with time for leisure activities and time with family, and feeling more satisfied with their sleep patterns. The problem, Tim Beals of Delta Ambulance tells us, is that many EMTs work other jobs. So while they're expected to come in well rested, there's no guarantee they haven't picked up a shift the night before somewhere else.
And we also spoke with the fire chief of Howland's department about what sleep deprivation really boils down to on these overnight shifts. Josh McNally says one of their biggest battles is just how much ground their rescue crews actually have to cover. He says there are times his crews are on the road for hours per call, which has sparked some policy changes there.
So a majority of our transports from northern Maine, from above Bangor, are to tertiary care centers, and they can put us on the road sometimes for 8 to 12 hours to a time. So there is an interesting dynamic for us working 24-hour shifts to possibly be running through the night.
Chief McNally says there's policy in place that any long-distance transfer after 7 p.m. requires 3 people so that the crews can rotate through. All right, we're going to switch gears now. The last few days felt a little bit more like fall than mid-July.
And it's time for a look outside with Keith Carson. Hey, Keith.
Hey, guys. Yeah, it kind of depends on your mentality. A decent amount of people I talked to liked it, but if you didn't, it won't last very long. Northern Maine, by the way, doesn't even know what we're really talking about. 77 in Caribou, 76 in Millinocket, but you can see exactly where that cloud line is, just south of Augusta, up through Rockland, Portland, and Lewiston. And sure enough, when you fade to satellite, there it is, nice and clear over, wow, almost 3/4 of the state, basically, with the clouds over west and southwestern parts of Maine. With that come a few showers that are moving in from southwest to northeast. This is really light, but I'd give you about a 50% chance of picking up a shower through tonight and then through the day tomorrow as well, as there'll be a lot of cloudiness around and a lot of showers. Tomorrow, though, not a washout by any stretch of the imagination. There will be peaks of sunshine, particularly during the afternoon. Just be aware if you have outside plans that there's a pretty decent chance you'll catch one of those showers. Guys, once again, Sunday looks fantastic, and most of next week is looking good as well.
All right, last year he sued Governor LePage. Last night he announced he would be seeking the Blaine House himself. Former Speaker of the House Mark Eves is the latest prominent Maine politician to announce his bid for governor. The Democrat joins several other candidates. Attorney General Janet Mills and former DHHS Commissioner Mary Mayhew are among the high-profile candidates in the running.
Now it's his turn to answer your questions. Today we asked you what you would like to ask Mark Eves about his campaign and his plans for Maine. He joins us now. Speaker, thanks so much for taking some time. You were once one of the most powerful people in the state house. How are you going to take what you learned there and apply it to possibly being the governor?
Well, you know, I didn't always feel like the most powerful person in the state house, but thanks for the compliment. I think, you know, what people are looking for right now is a jobs plan that makes sense for their communities, no matter where they live in this state. I've traveled the state for the last several months talking to people, and what I've heard is the frustration in their voice and feeling like there's an economy that's moving away from them. What I think that our state needs is a jobs plan that makes sense for every single community, whether that's North Berwick or Minot or all the back roads and main streets in between. We need to make sure that we're developing our economy that makes sense in each community. And you know what? We have an opportunity to build a better Maine, and I think that's going to start by doing that one family at a time.
Gotcha. I want to take a question here from Jim, who's chiming in on our Facebook live feed. He says, do you feel the governor and legislature should fully support and implement the outcomes of citizens' initiatives?
I really do. I think that's a really important question that Jim asked, and the short answer is yes, absolutely. When the people speak, whether it's a referendum question or a bond that was passed, including the one that I supported for affordable senior housing that the governor is not releasing, when people speak at the ballot box, we need to listen. I think that's extremely important that we do that, and as governor, I would.
Okay. Barry asks, how are we going to stay strong on the welfare program against theft and abuse? How would you handle those two items?
Well, I think we got to keep our eye on it, to be honest with you. I think we have to make sure that we are developing a plan that gets people to work and keeps them there, and we have a plan that keeps our kids here in the state. And again, that regionalized economic development is the key to that, whether it's the loggers in Aroostook County or the western part of our state or the machinists in York County. We need to make sure that we're doing economic development that makes sense for people in their communities, so our kids can stay here and plant roots, and our workers that are changing careers midstream have an opportunity to be retrained and get a decent wage.
Okay. Blaine asks, with the overabundance of laws on the books, why do you feel like we need more? What laws are missing?
Well, I think there's a lot to do. There probably are a lot of silly laws on the books that we can clean up. I think what we need to do is show up, listen to what communities need, and get to work and stick with it. And before I was Speaker, I spent a lot of time with families in trouble, and I'd go out to their homes, I'd knock on the door, and I'd never know what was on the other side. But when you stick at it and you start to understand what is standing in their way, and that's when you can start to do something about it. And it's that approach I took to the legislature as Speaker of the House. That's the approach I'm going to take on this campaign, and the approach that I've taken to the governor's office with me is showing up, sticking with it, and getting results.
We have time for just one more quick question. Sue wants to know, what do you plan to do to bring jobs to Washington County?
Well, it's showing up in Washington County, which we will be there. And Sue, I look forward to seeing you, and I hope that we can talk about this in person, because it is a critical issue for Washington County and a lot of counties around our state. We need to develop those plans that makes sense for those communities, and do that in partnership, whether it's the public and private partnerships that we've been able to create, logging training programs for loggers in Aroostook County that I was part of, or whether, again, the machinists and other parts of our state. It's going to Washington County, it's hearing about what they need on the ground and doing economic and community development one community at a time. And Washington County will be there for you, and I look forward to being there.
All right, Speaker Eves, thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you continue to ask questions on our Facebook live stream. He's going to stick around during the commercial break. Amanda?
All right, thanks, Chris. When we come back, how you can help an Army veteran fulfill his dying wish. Plus,
if there's a widget or a gadget out there that claims that it'll heal you faster, I own it.
his spine was crushed in a serious crash, but this weekend he's getting back in the car. Hear how he got ready for his return to Loudon Speedway in New Hampshire right after this. State Representative's anti-Trump Facebook tirades got him removed from all legislative committees. Speaker of the House Sarah Gideon says Representative Hammond apologized, but she wants to send a message that all reps must conduct themselves with respect. In a comment thread, Hammond threatened to make President Trump a half-term president if he gets within 10 feet of him.
Hey everybody, I'm Katie Ortiz with your Social Stop, and with an opportunity for you at home to pay it forward for a veteran. Lee Hernandez is an 18-year veteran of the Army and has toured in Iraq. Tonight, the 47-year-old is terminally ill and under hospice care in Texas. His cognitive abilities aren't great. He consistently has seizures and has had 3 separate brain surgeries. Doctors say there isn't much more they can do but make him feel comfortable. Here's where you come in. That number on the bottom of your screen that's coming up shortly is Hernandez's direct line, 210-632-6778. He's asking for your text messages or phone calls. That's it, just to say hi. One day he asked his wife to hold his phone in case anybody called, and after 2 hours of silence, he said, "I guess no one wants to talk to me." Well, that's when his wife took to social media to prove him wrong. He's been getting texts and calls from all over, including many veterans who want to let him know that he's not alone. He can bet he's getting a text from News Center later on today. Coco and Amanda.
All right, thanks, Katie.
Still to come on now.
It's a Friday, summer, they're hard to come by.
Driving around and around looking for parking. We've all done it. Is there an end in sight?
And at least we're warming up. Keith has the full forecast when we come back. All right, parking at just about any popular destination in Maine can be tough during the summer.
Yeah, a new study shows the average American spends 17 hours in 1 year looking for a parking spot. In big cities like New York, drivers spent 107 hours in a year, almost 5 days of your life trying to find a place to park. In cities like Boston, drivers spent about half that, about 53 hours in a year, finding spots to leave their cars. And in Maine and across the country, drivers are finding new ways to avoid this headache. Not even smooth music can calm the nerves of those on the hunt.
People are just queued up trying to get a spot.
Parking spots not easy to find on a summer afternoon in downtown Portland.
The parking was pretty rough here.
Sometimes it can take a while to finally plug the meter.
We have been looking for a parking spot for about 15 minutes.
And some just get lucky.
How much time do you spend driving around trying to find one?
5 minutes.
That feeling when you finally get one?
Yes!
Tiffany and her family almost drove back to Wells after making a few loops looking for a place.
We don't want to spend $10, $20 for parking when we're only going to be here for, a couple of hours.
She's not alone. A study by INRIX, which analyzes transportation trends, found 34% of drivers they surveyed abandoned a trip because of parking issues.
There's no parking down here. We went around the block once and then just put it in Temple Street garage.
The study says the average American shells out about $100 a year trying to park in places like lots or garages to avoid getting one of these. The study also says people are finding other ways to get where they want to go instead of driving.
We'll do Uber a lot or Lyft.
Alex Resnick and her friends live in New York City and say they have to get creative.
It's difficult to find parking and it takes a lot of time, and then you have to worry about paying the meter.
Mainers like Nick Mills keep it all in perspective.
Normally parking in Portland is not like New York or Boston. There's always someplace.
In Lewiston, the city planner says they are trying to relax some of the parking standards around off-street parking for apartments and restructuring parking fees while dealing with congestion on some of the major streets.
In Camden, the town has put up new signs directing people to a free parking lot, which they say has actually helped in recent years. I don't even want to talk to you about parking, Keith. Let's just get to it.
I think it's really difficult. I think this is...
He walks to work.
One of the most congested states in the union.
Sure. Oh, there we go. Okay. Anyway.
Let's do some
walking that.
Exchange Street on a summer day, I think, is probably the hardest place to park outside of maybe Old Orchard Beach on a 90-degree day. Those are going to be the top two in Maine.
Probably.
Right, on those particular scenarios. All right. Let's talk about
Mid-coast
the
gets pretty
weather,
crowded,
shall we? It is not even split state. It is 2/3 of the state was sunny through the day today. Western and southern Maine, unfortunately, stuck in the clouds. Look at this satellite picture and then watch the temperature map. You can see exactly who benefited from the sun. Basically, Bangor northward, Greenville, Millinocket, 77 in Caribou. Meanwhile, in the 60s here across central and southwestern parts of the state. A few showers in there as well. We'll talk about those in a second. What a change, though. If you just drive to the mid-Atlantic, the warm front is right here. Look at that. Richmond, 97 degrees for a high today, 99 Norfolk. So having record heat here, warm in the mid-Atlantic, and then well below average where we're sitting here across northern New England. A few showers in there tonight. I don't see too much in the way of convection, maybe an isolated rumble of thunder across the mountains. 50% chance of a shower tonight, and then tomorrow is kind of a mixed day. As we've been talking about, it's not a washout by any stretch, but there will be showers around. There'll be a lot of clouds around, particularly through the first half of the day. I think the second half, though, is better, and then we start to thin those clouds overnight before we clear out in time for Sunday, and Sunday looks great. West-northwest wind, that's a warm, dry wind direction. Notice the interior here could be in the mid-80s, 84, 85, especially towards Freiburg, down into Sanford, and probably just a little bit cooler along the immediate coastline. So here's how it looks, the deep dive forecast. I'm bringing it back, guys. I don't know. I had mixed reviews on it last time I tried it, but it's worth a shot.
I don't love it.
There's a lot going on.
There's sunshine.
Let's just not talk for a second. Let people
digest.
This feels awkward. I don't like it. I don't like it. We're losing viewers, Keith.
Sometimes that's the best negotiation tactic, you know. Not saying anything. No, I wanted them to absorb the forecast. Next week looks good, though. You know, we talked about this yesterday. If you took next week off, even though it falls apart a little bit on Friday, you pretty much got from Sunday to Thursday afternoon, which
not bad.
It's hard to do a lot better than that.
Yeah.
It's a good ratio. We talked about that yesterday.
Old Orchard Beach, tough place to park probably next week.
Oh boy.
So get there early, get there fast. All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Keith.
This weekend, NASCAR returns to Loudon.
Racing fans from all over New England will go to New Hampshire to watch their favorite drivers compete for the first Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series title.
Say that 10 times fast. Yeah. One driver will be returning to the track this weekend for the first time after his spine was crushed. That's crazy. Eric Almirola's vertebrae was fractured in Kansas in May, but now 8 weeks after the accident, he has been cleared by doctors to return to racing.
NBC followed his journey as he prepared to get back behind the wheel of the number 43 Smithfield Ford.
It's amazing how quick you get out of shape. Everything was really tense and locked up after the accident. It's the body's, safety mechanism so that it immobilizes it so you don't hurt yourself worse. So I've really been working hard to get the flexibility back, the range of motion back, and then get it strong again. I've also got to get my posture back. With the way that the vertebrae got crushed in a pizza pie shape, the top of my spine is actually leaning forward. So I've got to do a good job of getting all the back muscles in the upper part of my back strong again. And I've been doing several types of rehab with massage therapy and laser therapy, and we've got a bone growth stimulator, and if there's a widget or a gadget out there that claims that it'll heal you faster, I own it.
Today we're just going to put Eric through his paces of simulating Bristol. Bristol's probably one of the highest vertical load tracks that we see, and it's pretty violent.
We really need to apply a little bit of G-force to find out how his body is going to respond from a pain standpoint. Our goal here, Eric, is to not have any pain, and if you have any, we're going to call it.
Okay.
This will be the first step to see how closely I really am to getting back in a race car. No problem at all.
I think we'd go ahead and we'd dial it up to 100%.
Yeah. 2 weeks after my injury, that probably still would have brought tears to my eyes. That right there is no issue. I thought that the twist to get in and sort of like torquing my body to get down in the seat might be uncomfortable. I was even prepared to like grimace inside and not let you see it. We're going to try and simulate worst case scenario. We're going to create some really aggressive bump files, like the jack dropping on a pit stop, going across the tunnel at Texas, things like that. They're just sort of quick, instantaneous, violent bump. I come back down, and when it went back the second time, I got a fair amount of loading in my right glute, and I got some loading up my spine, and I felt fine. I was excited to come, but I was also anxious and a little nervous about maybe I'd have some pain, and then it would be sort of a reality check that, you know, I was still a ways away from being ready to go. But I think this is somewhat validation for me that I'm ready to go.
And you can watch NASCAR on NBC Sports Network Sunday afternoon, and we will be right back with brain drops about breast enhancements and bullets.
All right, today's brain drops. The headline says it all. So the backstory here is they went and did a study on this because there was a story in 2007 in which a plastic surgeon basically said that this woman's life was saved by her breast implant, that a bullet, so stop there, shot in the chest. The surgeon said she's a lucky woman. She may not have been alive if she hadn't had the breast implant. So the question is that true? They went in, they took some ballistics gel. You may be familiar with that if you've ever seen the show Mythbusters.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best simulant of skin and flesh and all that. They put one breast implant on one, and they didn't on the other one. They put a more natural tissue there. They found that it did slow down the bullet, and in a lot of cases the bullet actually mushroomed in the breast implant. There was still penetration into the ballistics gel, but it slowed it down significantly, and the penetration was lower. So it's possible in theory, if it were far enough away, a breast implant could save a life.
That's pretty impressive.
In other news, Northern Lights, possible to be seen in Maine on Sunday night. You don't think of it in the summer, but it may get all the way down to southern Maine. That's Sunday night, probably past most of our bedtimes, 11 p.m.
11 p.m., okay.
Till 3 a.m. or so.
You know, I can make an exception for that. That sounds pretty cool.
It's worth it.
All right, go check it out. And go check out News Center at 5:30 starting right now.